Welcome back to America Decides. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're tracking the latest picks by President-elect Trump to join his incoming administration. I'm joined now by Molly Ball and Laura Davison. Molly is a senior political correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. Laura's politics editor for Bloomberg. All right, we're going to deal with Gaetz off the top, and then we'll get to other things. But I want to play you some sound from Capitol Hill today. First, Susan Collins, Republican of Maine, and John Kennedy followed from Louisiana following that. Let's roll it.
I said from the beginning that I was shocked by the nomination, given the many allegations, but that's why it's important that the Senate go through its process of making sure that we have a background check, that we have a Senate investigation, which involves extensive interviews and questionnaires, and then a public hearing.
We're going to vet all the nominees, not just Congressman Gaetz, and we're going to give them a chance to lay out their plans for the American people and for President Trump. And that's the process. That's the way.
See this ethics report?
That's the way it works. That's why God made committees.
Oh, that's why God made committees, for many other reasons than that. John Cornyn, senator from Texas, Republican, said that if they occur, the Gaetz confirmation hearings will be like Brett Kavanaugh's, only on steroids. Molly, your estimation as to whether or not the Gaetz nomination will last long enough for a confirmation to actually occur?
I think it will probably get to that point.
Okay. We're going to air all this in public.
Well, that's
Your
part,
life, Matt
part
Gaetz,
of this
and
is
welcome
up to Matt Gaetz, right? And his tolerance for embarrassment or shame,
and his
which, as
ability
we
to
know,
count
is quite
votes.
high, and his ability to count votes. But what we've been hearing from the senators for days is consistent with those clips, which is that privately, a lot of them are really not into this nomination, but publicly they are withholding judgment. Publicly they are saying, let this get to a hearing, let us see the evidence, let us lay it all out. They don't want to be seen as rushing to judgment, and they don't want to be seen as obstructing the president-elect's agenda. You know, Trump was here on Capitol Hill a week ago, and his message to the Republicans in the House and Senate was, you all owe me. I got you all elected, and now we have these majorities. And so they very much want to be seen as fulfilling what he wants to do.
Laura, your assessment of Gaetz and his process of confirmation hearing and likelihood to be confirmed.
So we still have 2 months exactly until Inauguration Day. That is a long time for the politics on this to change, more allegations to come out, more details. The House Ethics Committee said they would meet again on December 5th to discuss this. So there could be that report that they were meeting on today could come out. So there's a lot of, basically Washington-ness that we need to get through over the next several weeks and months. So what we're seeing today is just the tip of the spear. It behooves a lot of the senators to come out today and say, yes, we'll take a look at this, and then they find a piece, a little nugget that they can sink their teeth into and say, look, you know what, this one just will not stand.
I want to read to you both something that we just got in our internal email. It's from Nikki Haley, not central to the Trump transition, I grant you, but a voice of some note in Republican circles. She said this on her podcast today, not about Matt Gaetz. We're going to move on from Matt Gaetz, but Tulsi Gabbard, nominated by President-elect Trump to lead the Office of Director of National Intelligence. Here's what Nikki Haley said. This is a job for an honest broker without any pronounced policy biases. What are the facts about Tulsi Gabbard? She opposed ending the Iran nuclear deal. She opposed sanctions on Iran. She opposed designating Iran military as terrorists. She tried to limit Trump's war powers against Iran, tried to cut her annual defense budget. She went to Syria in 2017 for a photo op with al-Assad while he was massacring his own people. This, to me, was disgusting. Those issues are going to come up, are they not, Molly? All of them.
Absolutely, they are. And I think that is really where the rubber meets the road on all of these nominations, is when they get to these hearings or in their private meetings with Republican senators. And the question is going to be less, I think, about, what are these indiscretions in your background, and more about, okay, given that you were a Democrat until 5 minutes ago, how are you going to run this department in a Republican administration, whether it's a...
And are you an honest broker with our other intelligence partners?
Exactly. And so I think the senators are going to have now Nikki Haley is not someone that the Trump transition is listening to.
No.
They were very clear during the campaign that they were stiff-arming her. They don't believe her philosophy has any place in the Republican Party. That doesn't mean there aren't still a lot of Republicans in the Senate who do subscribe to those traditionally sort of Reaganite, hawkish, conservative views, particularly on national security and defense. So I think that she's going to get a lot of questions.
And
in
Laura,
that vein.
based on my interaction with Senate Republicans, they're like, yeah, there's a lot of Gaetz questions, but there are questions about Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth to run the Defense Department.
And RFK Jr. as well. So one of the things that helps all of these more controversial picks is because they are in good company. There's 4 or so that are kind of being bandied about as being, potentially problematic for confirmation. That makes it difficult for Senate Republicans to vote down 4 of these. They may decide we're going to pick one, have that be the sacrificial lamb, and let some of these other through, so as not to upset, our own party's president. That's something we've seen in previous administrations. Usually there's 1 or 2 that don't make it through.
Right.
Usually they pull themselves out of the running, but I don't see any of these. They're all quite strong-headed and unlikely that they would pull themselves out unless it was clear that they must.
Molly, I read with interest an article in the Wall Street Journal about how the public health community lost confidence from the American public during COVID, and RFK Jr.'s nomination to lead the Department of Health and Human Services fits within that political construct, that sort of skepticism, if not outright hostility to experts telling Americans how to handle COVID, and it may bleed into other issues. And based on my reading, a lot of people told me that RFK Jr. has, of these 4, probably the better chance of being confirmed, at least as it's being appraised right now.
I think there's going to be a lot of questions for him about, number one, the actual duties of the HHS secretary,
right,
which don't necessarily have a lot of bearing on some of the causes he's been more passionate about. Certainly vaccines, though, where his views are unscientific, not to say dangerous.
Flat out.
And so I think he'll get a lot of questions about that. And then, I think we also may see the business community mobilize in opposition to some of his views and potentially some of the other nominees, where Republicans have traditionally viewed themselves as allies to business and capitalism and so on. And if, the pharmaceutical industry is saying, look, we recognize there could be a need for reform here, but
Republican.
This is someone we think is not going to, be in the best interest of what Republicans want to do. And that is the line of thinking that I wonder if we won't start hearing from some of these Republican senators when they've had a chance to really sit with these nominees is, are they going to go to President-elect Trump and say, I see what you're trying to do here, but maybe this isn't what you intended. Maybe this person is actually going to undermine the things that you want to do in X, Y, and Z way.
Molly Ball, Laura Davison, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.